We've been working with these questions since 1978, researching the foundations of a non-violent culture, experimenting with how the world that we create can become compatible with the world that has created us. Taking a holistic approach, we've been addressing the basic areas of human life.
Sunrise to sunset, all the way through.
We are establishing what we call a healing biotope, showing that we can in fact live together in cooperation and trust, honoring the earth and all that lives. In a healing biotope, all different social and ecological solutions are fused into a unified system, a blueprint for a possible post-capitalist society. Through the Healing Biotopes plan, we seek to support global system change, bringing together a planetary community around a shared vision. Incubating centers and regions around the world to model a new system that can make the existing one obsolete. We invite you all, let's collaborate, let's defend the sacred, let's lead the transition into a regenerative and more peaceful world.
Tamera is a peace research village and a place that is deeply dedicated to the research of how humans can live on this planet in a way that fosters the well-being of the planet and all its inhabitants instead of destroying it. So it's an intentional community and a peace research place where we research in all different areas of life, from child raising to new technology, water management, food autonomy. And a big part is also the work of the social work between humans, like regaining trust and being able to live on this planet together as community, because we are all one human family in the end, and not only human family, but one family with all that is alive. We have to learn to share this one planet that we have. So that's one description of what is Tamera. the essence actually of Tamera is for me the word system change. And that's also why we try to work in all different areas of life. So it's not about creating, I say, just a more ecological way or a less harmful way of living on the planet, but really working with all the different parts to interlink them again in a way that the unity of life is seen by that the life of the humans is integrated again into the unity of life, and so where the whole system is again steered towards peace, and where that system change takes place. So I think one essential decision one has to take to come to Tamera, I mean, of course, often it is like this, when you come the first time, it's like, oh, like falling in love for the first time, often that happens. But then to really step into Tamera and becoming a co-worker or a long-term cooperation partner, I feel, especially for co-workers, what the core decision is, I think, that is required, is the readiness to really work on yourself, to be ready for radical self-transformation, I would say. Because like the whole approach of Tamera is this very holistic approach that strives towards a system change, and system change always starts with oneself. So it requires a high readiness to work on all levels of oneself, to be ready to take mirrors again in the most intimate areas of your life, to not say, okay, until here you can talk to me, but this is like my private zone. But where all the things, all the movements that are happening inside are part of the research. In that sense, you're willing to reveal them, to work on them, to look at them, to gain new perspectives on them. So I think that's essential for system change. And that a big part of that is to, for example, get rid of the claim of being right. And which doesn't mean, of course, that you agree with everything, but very often there are these subtle structures where we can discover the fight within us. And there, in the end, it's really about growing consciousness and not being right in that sense. But yeah, the readiness to really get to know oneself, in that sense, who is the human being. Like, it's not a place where you can numb yourself down, really. And I sometimes know this inner, how do you say, sometimes there is the inner impulse to numb myself down because it's too intense to really deal with what is happening on this planet. So that's a constant ride, I would say, to be able to expose oneself to the world situation and really work on a vision, and not get overwhelmed by the pain of the world.
So the aim of Tamera is to build a model, not too big, so we can make the changes that we want to do in order to correct the model, and not too small in order to be complex enough that it can be a seed for a new culture. Yeah, it's not a seed for a village, it's not a seed for another family, it's a seed that needs to include all aspects of life. And in this model, we research how it can be to live on planet Earth in love, in trust, in truth, without violence. And it's a research. It's not that we say we have the answer and this is how we do it and this is how everyone are doing it. But we try to research every aspect of life, to question what do we eat, how do we eat, how do we make love, how do we speak with each other, how we solve conflicts, how we raise up our children. All of it without violence, all of it on a base of peace, of trust.
It makes sense for me to live in community because I think that without community we can live under the illusion that we can be independent. And this illusion, this whole story about being independent, autonomous individuals makes us really extractive as inhabitants of the earth, we take so much of the earth's resources to each create our own bubble to live in. And it's just not true. So it makes sense for me to live in community because it allows me to live more lightly on the earth, and to find a way of greater honesty in sharing our resources. It's hard. For me, it's easier not to live in community. But it also feels somehow like a lie. Like, I think human beings are meant to live in community. The conventional reality, the normality that we have at the moment, it's a very expensive lie.
We all think it's my story and it's my issue and it's my disease. And when you zoom out, we realize, wow, it's a collective disease. For example, depression. How many people are suffering from depression? And when you look to the numbers, it goes up and up. For me, it's also, it's a sign of a cultural disease. Yeah, I'm not depressed because my mama and papa did it to me. Yeah, we all have our biographies, but our mamas and papas were born into a cultural disease of fear, of mistrust, of violence. When we realize this, that my issue is not my private issue, we realize also that my healing is not my private issue. And in order to heal me, I need to heal the whole culture. I need to make a system change.
There is a whole movement on this planet that is looking to bring the way that we live in closer harmony with nature. So I think Tamera is part of that movement.
Being a farmer is a political task. Now it's a time also of make sure that our food is coming closer to us, that we have intimate contact with our food. That we know from where it came from, we know who grew it, we know how it was growing, we know what was the impact on the surrounding. And so I love the smiles which I get when I bring the harvest. And more than this, I like the fact that our food is coming closer to our heart, to our consciousness, that we know what does it mean to grow food, what does it mean to put in our body this information, of peace information, food that was grown in a peaceful way.
Life is organized here in a really highly structured way, bringing the world that we create closer together with the world that created us. One has to keep choosing to be part of a story that's bigger than one's own life.
For me, living in community is a spiritual path. I learn who I am and I enlarge my consciousness through the eyes and the hearts of a circle around me. It's quite unique. Usually when we speak about spiritual path, we think about you need to go into an isolated mountain and to meditate, and only when you are alone, disconnected from anything, then you will get the truth, then you will get to know who you are. And my discovery is, wow, I learned so much from the circle, by them seeing me. And it's different archetypes in community. Eh? It's the mature man and the mature woman, and the young brother and the young sister, and my friend and the one who doesn't know me at all. They all see me, and through their eyes and feedback, I learn more and I discover my blind spots, and I discover who I am and who I can be.
Trust is the experience where I no longer have to defend myself. I no longer have to protect myself from others. I feel safe. I can reveal my most tender points in the knowledge that I will be cared for and loved in the tenderness, and that won't be used against me. Individual development is about working in the group, making oneself transparent in the group.
unlearning the ways that I kept myself safe and realizing that I'm okay. The immune system can relax, the social immune system.
The journey of moving from fear to trust, for me it's a system change. We need as a society to change our habits, to change our foundation. It touches all aspects of life. It touches how we raise up our children, which values we give them, which surrounding we give them, how we love each other, the parents. So Tamera is aiming to put an end to patriarchy. Tamera is aiming to make peace between men and women after thousands of years of war. We are used to it, that our world is ruled by men. Men as population, as half of the population, but also men as a way of thinking. Yeah? The next step of evolution of culture is a culture of cooperation. When men and women, and more than this, the female energy and the male energy are really supporting each other in full trust and love. This is what we are aiming to.
First of all, Tamera is a place, it's a piece of land, 134 hectares, it's roughly 190 soccer fields in the south of Portugal, in the Alentejo region. Quite a dry region actually, with only a few months of rain during the year. And here we see some drone footage of the landscape surrounding Tamera. Obviously that's kind of what Tamera looked like as well about 20 years ago, before the people started to move in with their project. But today it looks very different. And in this shot, it's really beautiful to see on the bottom the neighboring land here in blue. And the street that was going across that big space, it was moved to the side. They dug a lake, they built a dam and started to collect the rainwater in the first big water retention space of Tamera. Today it's one of around 20 lakes that they have in Tamera. And of course, these lakes changed the whole water situation of Tamera and the land around. Water not only for the people of Tamera, but also for the gardens and for the wildlife that's coming back and enjoying the water. And so many terraces being built around these lakes. It's actually quite amazing. To be honest, for me to drive into Tamera, coming through this dry land of Alentejo and arriving for the first time in the project and seeing this big lake where you can just walk around and snack fruit all day in the summertime. It's kind of like arriving in an oasis or something like that. And actually during my last day in Tamera, there was a water retention landscape design course taking place with an expert from Tamera, Bernd Müller. So let's check that out.
All right. We don't have enough material, we also use of that material.
Okay.
Don't. So here we are on the current building site of a group of trainees in water retention landscape design. And for me it is important to embed these very local activities into a global context, into what in Tamera in many areas we call the system change that is needed for a culture that doesn't need war to sustain. We have this system change in water also, where we call it a new water paradigm. That is a paradigm of natural water management that is in cooperation with nature instead of following a track of exploitation. So here people are building structures for water retention that are called swales, that are ditches on contour, and there with a very easy to be built tool, which is called the A-frame. You see this wooden tool there in the size of A. They can mark contour lines, that are lines which are on level, where the water doesn't flow. But if rainwater goes into this structure, it would rise, and after the rain it has time to seep into the earth body. Not a lot of technology needed to see this. They use this simple frame to measure the contour, and this work can be done with very easy means all over the world. For sure, afterwards the next step will be to bring in vast vegetation, seedings, trees, plantings, covering everything that is brown now with organic material. And then the next rain will come and things can start to grow.
As we can see in this animation, there's really a lot of stuff happening in Tamera. I can't show you all of it, but what I want to do now is show you quite a lot of it. And I went to different people in Tamera to see them in their job, daily life, and speak with them a little bit about what they're doing. So enjoy.
This is test field 1, as we call it. It's our test field for a solar village, and we are a group of 30, slightly over 30 people. Our task that we've taken on is to build a test field for the social, the ecological and the technological questions of our times, the questions of our future. How do people actually live together? And that encompasses everything from food, water, energy provision to the deep questions of social interaction. How can we show ourselves to each other without fear? How can we see each other and cooperate and communicate? So we have a living test field here for those questions. Let's have a look. Nice experiments here on the right on urban gardening, rainwater collection.
They go more into this. More into this.
So here we have groups of visiting friends and friends-to-be, learning and working with us, accompanied by our ecologists, sorting out the garden for the winter. Nice work. I saw the ethical basis of the work that was being done here. The ethical basis of the technological work was very, very attractive to me. But in a way, what really made me take a decision for life was at a certain point in my life I fell in love with the world. I fell in love with nature, and I wanted then to be a gardener and to take care of nature, and this is my expression of that. Okay, so here we have the wood workshop, the metal workshop and the energy technology group workshop. We go to my side, the energy technology side. Our little workshop. Beautiful view over the stone circle. And the main project we've been working on these last few years are these rather nice membrane mirrors. It's hard to see. Yeah, it's just one segment, one part of a mirror, but it's a lightweight, inflatable, high precision solar concentrator. Beautiful little thing, one part of a bigger mirror that reaches a concentration of about between 500 and 1,000 suns for cooking, photocatalysis, and much, much more.
Here we are in the test field 1 in the solar village, and this is the test field kitchen of Tamera. And what we do is we work basically on cooking only with renewable energy. That means we have Hulda over there, our biogas system, and we have the chef lamelle over there, which normally we would cook our whole meal on if the sun would shine, which is not happening today. So that's the technology part, and then we also have the food experiment part, where we are trying to set up a regional autonomous kitchen, which basically only uses ingredients which we are already producing ourselves, or which fairly simple we could produce ourselves, or our surroundings, the neighboring surroundings. And so as an example here, we have the first mushrooms of the season, which are grown by our mushroom master Jan. And this is something we are actually very excited about, so that we also just get not everyday food, just of course we have a beautiful garden which provides us with a lot of beautiful vegetables, and now more and more we also start to get some enjoy your lunch. I certainly like what I'm doing. For me, this is the direct and best way of actually being of service to a bigger plan, to actually support the people who want to set up a healing biotope. And this is the very basic support I can give, and this is something I really enjoy to do.
I mean, a new culture will need a new technology, or a new technological paradigm. Like the culture, today's technology is based a lot on exploitation, and like the culture, it's shifting now to cooperation. Particularly, energy provision has long been used as a way of controlling people, and so a new culture where human beings live freely, connected with each other, but without having to take power by controlling other people, we need energy technologies that are appropriate for that. And solar energy is one of the nearest. The sun gives us vastly more energy than we need, so there's no energy shortage. And our work is, to me, it's a start. I mean, there are a lot of people working on energy technology around the world, and we start to explore the possibilities. I'm sure that the technologies of a truly free culture will look quite different to how we see them at the moment, but we're working to get there. So we work, also we try to work differently within a team, so that the team lives more heartfully and more fully and more energetically, also producing as a result more heartful, more energetic technologies. And we have for sure a long way to go. It feels to me like we're just starting to get to know the sun a tiny little bit. We still think of the sun in terms of heat, in terms of kilowatt hours, and the normal engineering terms, which is also, it's also a perfectly valid way of looking at it, but also to know that this is our source of life, that the sun is the love that sustains us, that the sun is something like our cosmic cooperation partner. I don't want to sound too esoteric on this, but the sun is also a part of life, and gives us so freely our energy. We can also appreciate that and work with that. We don't need to steal fire.
I love my job. I love the horse courses we do with the humans, where the knowledge with the horses comes together with the human knowledge, and it combines great. I love to see the human being that comes in the beginning of the course, is very shy, very insecure maybe, or very arrogant, but behind the arrogancy there lies this insecureness. And through the work with the horses, by just being with the horse, doing very simple exercises, the person, like the mask can fall. The walls the person built it throughout his life, they can just drop. And what comes out is like this shining, where it's just the truth, and where the being itself come out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
Very nice.
And to work with the horses, to read them and to see their pure truth, and by this be able to transmit it to the human, and that the human also can open up and show his truth and feels like it's totally okay where he is. And I love this process, to get to know the true human being that is behind the face that enters the first time in the door.
We are entering now our atelier in Casasandra, where we are already working for 3 weeks on our sculpture, and you see a lot of small little models which we did also in spring already and now in the last 3 weeks, and we decided to choose this one here. And after quite a long process, and I was thinking about what could be the right form and expression for a sculpture, big sculpture, and now we did it one step bigger. This is the 1:5 proportion, to have a real detailed model, to then build it really in big. It should be at the end 4.50 meters high and should stand in the middle of in the center of the cultural center in Tamera. The main thing for art in our time, I think, is to create what Simon spoke about, is to create icons for a future without war, and to activate in the observer this inner dream, this inner frequency of peace, this inner insight, this inner inspiration. And so art without words often, sometimes also with, but mostly without words, can convey, can transport on a different level. Yeah. Things that we generate here, and we hope many more people in the world do generate and actually are doing. Thanks.
Tamera currently has a school. It's in development, and we're in a process of transition where we are making concrete steps towards becoming an official school here in the Alentejo. So here we have the school building for the older. This is the second and third ciclo, and right now they have art class. For the children, there is a social continuum. It's not just that they come to school and then they go home, and that it's two separate worlds. Here actually there's a lot of collaboration and cooperation. They are my friends, they are people I see daily. I'm speaking of the parents now. And this is an important aspect of the education of the child. So it looks like we have special class going on in there. I'm not sure, perhaps math or perhaps the arts. But this place is the workshop. This is a place where the kids with all their energy and wish to manifest can come work with wood, work with metal. We do many projects here. And here we have the primaria. This is the youngers. And here we have English, German, and Portuguese all coming in. It's a very multilingual school. One important aspect for a school for me is to realize that a school is not just a place. A school is a center point for a whole world around where the children and the youth can really go for their questions and they go for their curiosity, their research. And one thing I like about this school is that it's embedded in a place with a lot of ecological knowledge, a lot of social knowledge, a lot of knowledge in love and contact with animals. And so a greater vision for the school is that it's not just about being in the classroom here reading books, but actually out with professionals in nature where they can come in contact with life as it's presented to them.
So there are 200 people living on this piece of land, working together on creating this bigger vision. But we've seen now the people in their individual jobs, but not so much community life or how they are all cooperating on a bigger plan. And actually there's a book that came out of Tamera, not the first one, but the latest one, and it's called Terra Nova Global Revolution and the Healing of Love. And in this book, the author and the co-founder of Tamera, Dieter Doom, he writes, Terra Nova describes a vision for a new culture, an earth free of war, a society free of violence, a love free of lies, and a life free of fear. The author outlines this new earth not only in theory, but also writes from his direct experience of its emergence. This book presents the essence of nearly 40 years of pioneering work in establishing functioning communities. If you want to get that, go ahead, why not? I just thought I'd show it up here once because now we're going to listen to Dieter Doom for a short moment, and then there will be another block of some of the working areas of Tamera, but where we get a better idea of the social sustainability that the people are striving for. So let's start with Dieter Doom.
Wir sind heute in der Lage, die Geschichte zu durchschauen. Wir sind sowas wie das Auge der Evolution. Wir können hinschauen, was wir gemacht haben. Und wir alle waren irgendwie beteiligt daran. Ich war auch beteiligt. Aber eben, wir sind das Auge der Evolution. Wir können erkennen, was für einen Wahnsinn wir angerichtet haben auf dieser Erde. Und wir heute Milliarden von Menschen und von Tieren unter diesem Wahnsinn leiden. Und da wir das verstehen können, können wir auch den Schalter drehen, um den Wahnsinn zu beenden. Und das müssen wir tun, weltweit. Ich habe das Buch geschrieben, damit es möglichst schnell in die Welt kommt und sich weit verbreitet. Es ist nicht der Wahrheit letzter Schrei. Es ist der Notruf der Erde, der durch dieses Buch geht und ein Angebot für die Heilung. Und alle, die da mitdenken, mögen ihre Beiträge leisten, damit ein World Council, eine Weltkooperation zustande kommt für die Gründung von Gemeinschaften in allen Ländern, die nach diesen Lebensprinzipien arbeiten.
Peace work for us is healing work. When you look at the wars that are happening on this planet, when you see look at the environmental destruction, when you see all these crises, you see that they are based on a civilizational disease. It is the occupation of the human heart, of the whole human culture by a virus of fear and violence, you could say. And so when we speak about peace, it is much more than just a political reform or of getting away with arms and arms production, even though this is of course totally important. But in the core it is really healing this civilizational disease of fear, of violence that has separated us, alienated us from one another and from nature. Because it is only due to this alienation, this sense of separation that we feel and is so deeply ingrained, that it is even thinkable that I can violate nature, that I can kill another human being. And so peace work has a lot to do with creating a new form of life that allows people to overcome this kind of programming of fear. And this has to do with relearning the ways of community, has to do with relearning the ways of cooperating with all beings. And it is through this process of restoring trust and cooperation in all the different levels that a healing biotope emerges, and that we can dissolve this this disease of fear. We feel it to be very personal, a very personal issue, but in fact it is a cultural disease that we can only heal through a cultural reorganization by creating a new culture based on trust and cooperation. The IGP is the Institute for Global Peace Work. This is the networking and outreach agency of Tamera, you could say. So we are a team of 10 to 15 people working on networking, on connecting this Healing Biotope 1 Tamera with the world, with other communities, with thought leaders, with people that are working in social movements. So we are weaving a network for a system change on this planet, and particularly for the creation of healing biotopes as this cultural crystals that can inspire people around the world what a new global culture can look like.
Love is an issue that unites all humanity, no matter from which background, from which religion, from which country. Everybody has this longing of love. And then if we look, for example, the Hollywood movies, usually they stop with a happy end. So when they just found each other and are happily in love. But there are no movies that show how does it actually continue. And there are rarely people who after 30 years of being with each other love each other more. I don't say that it doesn't exist, but the majority is what we see also is an increasing rate of divorces, of betrayal, and so on and so forth. So healing of love, we also try to develop circumstances in which the love between people, like this initial spark of love, can actually grow. And what we found out so far is that it requires trust. I think love and trust have to go hand in hand, and trust comes from truth. And so we have to create surroundings where we can actually learn to show again the fullness of who we are, so the full truth of who we are.
You find Earth boring, just the same old, same thing. Come on, sign up without a space, ways incorporated.
Own steps we have to do to create community, to create trust, to create responsibility, to feel and to hold other people, to understand, to create compassion between people. And so I feel the guest center is a place where we really can create this space for guests, also when they come for a short time, so to nourish this kind of longing in people. This year for me it was a strong experience that it is possible with quite new people who come from very different places from the world to create a community field. And so we not only cook together, we also have social times together where we study the geistic frame from Tamera, and people have a space to share about their inner processes. And so it creates after a very short time, it creates a field of trust. And in a field of trust, I can say everything is possible. Hello, dear people. Welcome to our lunch. It's a little bit strange because we were such a huge circle, so many people. And we said already goodbye to a lot of people. And we give blessings to their way, that they receive, that they have a safe trip to their places where they go. And that they are received with open heart from friends, and yeah, that they can take what they experience in Tamera to their heart and to their life. And today we have the pleasure to try our first olive oil, the olives which you harvest. And you see it's really green, rich green. Gratitude is one of the most important things in life because it opens my view to the world, and to see that we here in this place special, but also in the Western world, we are so privileged. We are so privileged. We have the time. We have food, we have shelter, we have clear water. So we have the privilege and the responsibility to take care for how we want to live in the future and how we want to live now. And we have to take this kind of responsibility. And we have so much knowledge what to do, and it's time to make a decision to change our life in this direction and not to continue this destruction we do in the world. Yeah, that's, I think, the most important.